There are moments when decisions made far from the sight of those affected ripple into places where hearts are already fragile, where silence feels louder than any protest, and where the glow of sanctuary lamps flickers beneath the weight of uncertainty. This is one of those moments. A quiet directive, signed in an office without ceremony, has suddenly sent shockwaves into chapels across military bases. And though it appears administrative, its consequences are not. For within these chapels, soldiers kneel seeking consolation, families gather seeking stability, and priests labor to bring the sacraments to souls who need them more than they know. But now something vital has been removed. If you have not yet subscribed, click on the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on every video we post. Because what we are about to enter is more than a story, it is a spiritual tremor rippling through the heart of the Church, a moment where silence breaks, truth stirs, and hidden battles come to light. Now, let us step into the unfolding crisis with reverence, with open hearts, and with a desire to understand what is truly happening within the walls of the Catholic world. Across the United States Army, every support contract for chapel services has been cancelled. It sounds like paperwork. It feels like cost-cutting. But it is something deeper, because those contracts were not just documents. Behind every role was a person, behind every service was a family, behind every chapel was a community. And now, those faces are gone. It means no musicians to lift hearts during Mass, no catechists to prepare children for First Communion, no administrators to guide new Catholics through RCIA or confirmation, and no trained coordinators to manage sacramental schedules, marriage prep, funerals, and other spiritual needs. The work that once took many is now expected of one, the Catholic chaplain, already stretched beyond human limits. And perhaps most troubling, the replacements for these roles do not even need to be Catholic, leaving the very identity of Catholic formation unprotected. For Archbishop Timothy Broglio of the Archdiocese for the Military Services, this decision is not merely disappointing. It is a grave misstep, one that misunderstands both the needs of Catholic life and the reality of military Catholicism specifically. Chaplains are already scarce across bases. A typical Catholic chaplain might serve thousands of soldiers and family members, traveling long distances between facilities, celebrating multiple masses per weekend, ministering in hospitals, counseling those in crisis, and preparing units for deployment. Their vocation is already stretched thin. To remove their lay support is to burden them beyond what is sustainable. It is to risk not just burnout, but collapse. Military life, even on its strongest days, is built on movement, transition, and sacrifice. Families rarely stay in one place longer than 2 or 3 years. Children begin sacramental prep in one country and finish it in another. The friends who attended your wedding mass may not be there for your child's baptism. Everything shifts. Everything changes. The one thing that held steady was the chapel. The one constant was the presence of the Church, not as an option, but as an anchor. And now, with these contracts gone, that anchor feels loose. Wolf Ibo, an Army veteran from the elite 75th Ranger Regiment and a devout Catholic, understands this deeply. His experience in both faith and service gives him a unique voice. When asked how he felt, he didn't speak with anger. He didn't even seem surprised. He just said he was disappointed. Because disappointment is felt when trust is quietly broken, not loudly shattered. He spoke of the real lives this affects, the family stationed in a foreign country with no local parish, the soldier who converts to Catholicism while deployed, the chaplain who must prepare dozens for sacraments without help. He described how military chaplains are expected to serve not just as priests, but as teachers, choir directors, administrators, event planners, crisis counselors, sacramental coordinators, and spiritual medics. Most priests could not do all this even in civilian parishes, with full support. Yet now they are expected to do it alone. Catholicism is not something that exists in minimal form. It is sacramental, incarnational, communal. It requires preparation, guidance, beauty, formation, tradition, and community. You cannot replace a catechist with a general religious worker. You cannot ask a secular administrator to prepare candidates for First Communion. You cannot simply leave chaplains without support and still expect vibrant Catholic life to flourish. For Catholics, the Mass is not just a service. It is the Eucharist. It is life itself. The Army says this change does not infringe on religious freedom. But freedom is not just the absence of interference. Freedom is also the presence of support. For Catholics in the military, support is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. Without it, families drift spiritually. Children go unprepared. RCIA comes to a halt. Confirmation gets delayed indefinitely. Marriage prep becomes uncertain. Chaplains have less time for confessions, spiritual direction, and counseling. Most dangerously, soldiers deploying into war zones lose access to the sacraments that fortify their souls. It is not persecution, not in the same way Christians experience in countries where practicing the faith is illegal or deadly. It is something more subtle. It is erosion. It is misunderstanding. It is a sign of how institutions now see religious life as something optional, something peripheral, something that should be minimized rather than strengthened. When officials ask, does this really prevent Catholics from practicing their faith, it becomes clear that they misunderstand what Catholic life requires. To them, faith is an hour on Sundays. To Catholics, it is formation, community, sacraments, confession, catechesis, grace, and support. On a base, parish life is fragile. A typical parish might have lifelong members, decades of stability, and dozens of volunteers. A military chapel has none of that. The people rotate constantly. The volunteers leave mid-year. Priests come and go. There is no long-term foundation, except for the lay contractors, the individuals who consistently provided structure regardless of who arrived or left. Now, they are gone too. Imagine a chapel on a base in Germany, South Korea, or the Middle East. For many families, especially in countries where Christianity is restricted or barely practiced, the base chapel is their only access to the sacraments. They cannot simply go into town to find a Catholic church. They cannot find a Catholic catechist off post. The chapel is all they have. In those places, this decision isn't just inconvenient. It is spiritually devastating. Priests will do everything they can. They will serve until they are exhausted. They will try to be administrators, teachers, musicians, and coordinators. But even the holiest man cannot multiply himself. And without support, the system will slowly begin to unravel. You will see fewer RCIA candidates. Fewer sacraments. Less youth ministry. Fewer military vocations. Fewer confirmations. More families quietly drifting away, not in anger, but in discouragement. A spiritual hunger growing silently. The army trains its soldiers with intense precision. It prepares them physically, emotionally, and mentally. But spiritual readiness, which is the only form of readiness that prepares the soul for death, for meaning, for purpose, has been weakened. And a malnourished soul is a dangerous thing. Soldiers need more than equipment. They need more than tactics. They need truth. They need grace. They need Christ. This decision reveals something deeper happening in modern culture. It shows a quiet apathy toward religion, not open hostility, but a dismissal that faith is necessary. Persecution at least acknowledges that religion is powerful. Apathy suggests it is irrelevant. But history tells us differently. Chaplains have marched through battlefields, celebrated Mass on tailgates, administered confession before combat, buried the dead, and comforted the living. They carried rosaries into foxholes. They brought the Eucharist across deserts. They gave soldiers strength when no other strength remained. Faith has never been optional to soldiers. It has been essential. But this story is not over. Catholics do not retreat. They rebuild. Even now, chaplains are speaking out. Families are raising their voices. Veterans are writing letters. Catholic organizations are mobilizing to advocate and defend the spiritual needs of those who serve. The Archdiocese is exploring legal options. Soldiers are forming grassroots networks, praying in living rooms, gathering in small circles, filling classrooms with rosary groups. Communities are responding not with despair but with conviction. They will fill the gaps where structures fail. They will hold fast to what cannot be taken away. The Eucharist has survived empires, wars, exile, persecution, revolution. It will survive this too. The question now is not whether the Church will endure. It always will. The question is whether institutions like the army will choose to stand alongside it, recognizing that spiritual strength is part of human strength. Because if the military wants emotionally resilient, morally grounded, spiritually prepared soldiers, it must also protect their access to their faith. Morning comes, even when nights are long. On bases across the world, soldiers wake before dawn. Some go to training. Some prepare for deployment. Some FaceTime their families back home. And some, just a few, walk quietly toward the chapel, not seeking convenience, but seeking Christ. They do not come for programs or paperwork. They come for peace. For forgiveness. For purpose. For strength. For grace. And when they find that the lights are dimmer, the classrooms emptier, and the chaplain more tired than before, they do not blame him. They simply kneel, pray, and hope that somewhere in the halls of decision-making, someone will remember that soldiers need more than gear, more than pay, more than tactics. They need the sacraments. They need community. They need faith. Because even on the hardest bases, even in the loneliest deployments, and even in the midst of administrative failures, the sanctuary lamp still flickers. And as long as it burns, hope remains.